Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Clash at Demonhead, brought to us by Vic Tokai. Clash at Demonhead is an action run-and-gun platformer that has a lot of storyline twists that keeps the game interesting at all points. Now during the course of this run I'm actually going to lose a life intentionally. One of the bosses in the game is impossible to beat at the time of when you first fight him. And in order to continue on the game you have to intentionally lose the life there. Our opening storyline for this game is you have Billy Big Bang Blitz, a sergeant of Saber, Special Assault Brigade for Real Emergencies, a great name there, and his fellow operative Mary are chilling out on the beach after they just finished a mission, when they get a call that Billy has to now go on another mission, apparently right after one he just completed. Of course, this isn't a sequel to a game or anything, so we're not really sure the mission that was before this. They don't explain that part of it. Now, in the transmission, Billy is told that the inventor of a doomsday bomb, this big bomb that will destroy the entire Earth if it goes off, he has been kidnapped, and that Billy now has to go save him. Now, you may think this would be a serious title with, like, real humans and all that you have to fight, but it's based pretty much on an anime-style game, so you have colorful characters and weird monsters that you're going to fight throughout it. After only a few seconds into the game, we actually run into this guy right here who's going to try to attack me here. After a few attempts, we then have a conversation. We're trying to get to his base camp, wherever that is, and he tells us that we need to find these medallions in order to enter it. Now, he mentions the medallions of the 7 governors. However, there's actually only 6 medallions and an extra boss that we will not be fighting during the course of this game. Now, that guy's name was Tom Gaikot, an interesting name for a skeleton enemy, but we'll be seeing him much later on in the game. This game starts off with one plot for us to go find this professor, and now already we have multiple plots going that we now have to find these medallions in order to find the professor. As we're going to continue on, other storylines kind of intertwine of stuff that we're going to have to do throughout the game so that we didn't know at first. So I think that's one of the reasons why this game has become so interesting. A whole lot of those storyline things and multiple objectives to complete at once wasn't something that was too common during the 8-bit era. Here's where we meet up with another one of our characters that we meet throughout the game. Michael, he's our ally, who's going to help us out with a few things, trying to find a couple of things, and we'll see him throughout the course of the run. He informs us here that a sprite, or a fairy, is at a certain route. And as you can see already, the whole game is based up all these different routes that you have to go through. Each route containing different paths that lead to other routes, and every route could have a boss on it, or a certain object, or another shortcut through it that either get to another route that has a different boss and such. It's one of those games that if you haven't played before, don't know where you're going, you can easily get lost. And it's one of those ones that's best to have a guide, or just have the fun of exploring and go through tons of routes before making any progress. Or you'll end up finding a place, nothing will be there yet, or you won't be able to do anything. You go all the way to another part, find out what a boss was, or kill a boss, or find an item, and then you'll have to travel back to that place you've already gone to. Now, thankfully, later on in the game, you actually get the ability to teleport to any of the previous routes you've already gone to. Now, here is our first governor to get our first medallion. This is Gaz, or Gaze, I'm not exactly sure, G-A-Z-H. And he's actually one of the tougher bosses that we have to deal with in the game. Every time you shoot him, as you'll see, he then gets to know his eye has a nice little animation to it, and then he shoots up into the air, shooting lots of different fireballs at you. It's a pretty easy boss to take care of if you can keep your distance from him, and by doing so you'll be able to take out all the fireballs that come straight at you, and then you'll be able to duck under the one that's just slightly above you, and if you don't duck, he'll end up hitting you. Thankfully though, in this game, as you'll see, every time you kill a boss, not only do you get a medallion, but you also get full health. So if you take a few hits during the course of the battle but still win, you'll have full health before leaving the area. Now, most bosses do take a good amount of shots to kill, however, after they are gone, they have a nice little explosion thing, and then we'll grab the medallion and be able to continue on. Now, the thing that makes this game really challenging, especially if you're trying to run through it pretty quickly, is the whole shop element. Now, the first item that we're really going to need is the call item that allows us to call more shops. That's the one in the upper right that costs 2,000 of our money each time. The 4 main items we need to focus on are those 4 ones. Right now you can see one's a boot. That's 5,000, and then you can see one 2 over from that is 7,000, and then the ones that are next to that as well, the one to the right of the goggles and the one to the left of the goggles, are also ones that we're going to need to buy throughout the course of the run. Now, if you go through and you take your time and take out every enemy you see, you can gain a lot of money. But especially if you're trying to do what I'm doing and trying to get through the game as quickly as you can, sometimes stopping for money can take a long time. In some ways, it's very comparable to Battle of Olympus, having to collect a certain amount of olives in order to buy certain items from the different gods in the game. However, hopefully I won't have to grind too long. There will be probably one time I will have to grind a little bit, but that's not actually for money. What I'm going to have to grind for is for force power. Now, you may not know exactly what force power, but you can see it on my menu. I have a force thing at the bottom left corner. What the force powers are is you meet up with a Hermit later on that you have to save from one of the bosses, and once you meet him, he gives you different abilities. Now, these abilities are unlocked throughout the amount of force power that you have. Now, the game force, by killing random enemies in the game, they sometimes drop apples. You've probably seen a couple during the course of the run so far. Every time you grab an apple, you get 10 added to your force. Once you reach a certain amount of force, you unlock new abilities, but then it also costs you a certain amount of force to use each ability. So it can be a real pain to try to gain the amount of force you're going to need in order to unlock them. Throughout the run, I probably won't unlock any more than the second one, which is the one I'm going to need in order to get through the game quicker. You have to get up to 200 force in order to unlock the second force power, which is the teleport ability, which is going to definitely help you, especially when you're trying to save minutes and probably tens of minutes off your total time. So in this game, you not only have to worry about the whole money system and buying items, you also have to worry about those force abilities. Now here we meet up with Fascia, who is that sprite that Michael told us about, and she informs us that the Hermit has been captured. That's the Hermit that's going to give us the force abilities later. She also informs us that she has opened up a certain path that will allow us to get to the Hermit easier. If you don't have that conversation with her there, that path won't open up and you won't be able to get through it. That's one of the things that makes the game also tough for trying to, make shortcuts and such. On some games, if you already know something, you can just go ahead and do it, even though it doesn't officially tell you about it until later on. In this game, it's one of those things you must talk to all the things in order to unlock those certain key moments that'll help you out later. Like, for one of the major items we'll get late in the game, we have to have a certain conversation in order for that item to be able to be used at that certain spot. It kind of makes sense that obviously you wouldn't know what to do at certain areas unless you're told to. However, you still think if you use that certain item at the right spot, it would still work no matter what. You'd just be shocked that it worked, right? Now, one of the other annoying things about that whole shopping thing that makes the game a little bit tougher to deal with is sometimes when you call the shop, certain items that you need at the time won't be available for purchase, which can definitely get annoying. Like, you'll try to open it up one time and you won't be able to buy the jetpack. Now, we can't buy the jetpack yet anyway, it's not available, it becomes available a little bit later, and you may have noticed that that jetpack, it's the second item in that whole shop area, had no number underneath of it. Now, that means I just can't buy it yet. When I'm able to buy it, the price will be there. But then when you check later after you are allowed to buy it, if it's not going to allow you to buy it then, it'll have X's instead of the price tag. A little bit confusing, I know, but you'll see it as the run goes. Now, that little path I just took that led me to that forest area was that shortcut the sprite had mentioned. So now we're going to climb up here and enter this door right here, and that's going to take us to the battle with a boss, and it's going to allow us to save the Hermit. Now, this is definitely one of the easiest bosses to take care of in the game. We have our conversation with him. His name is Rowdy. Very easy to deal with. He's going to charge at you as soon as the conversation ends, so you want to be ready to jump over him fast. But once you do, duck down and just keep mashing the fire button. After only a few shots in the ankles or legs, he's taken care of, and the Hermit is now free. The Hermit thanks us and gives us the abilities of those force powers I mentioned, but he only gives us the first one, which is the ability to make us small. Like I mentioned, you have to get to a certain amount of force ability points in order to unlock the other abilities. And of course the game doesn't inform you when you're able to buy those other ones. Now, as you can see here in the shop, I'm actually able to buy the fourth item, which is the super suit. Now, there's only one time in the game we're going to need that item. Basically, it's like a super special diving suit that allows you to go into lava. And there's only one instance in the game where we'll have to go in there, so you only need one of those. If you have the extra money, I guess you could buy two in case for some reason you do run out of the super suit, or you used it in an area that didn't require it. However, you should only need one throughout the game. Now, after that, you saw that I used the micro ability for the first time. It cost me a certain amount of force points to use it. However, it allows me to enter this ice cave area. So now our next goal with the new force ability, that micro ability, it allows us to exit the area we currently were and go to some new paths we haven't taken yet. The first one we're going to be doing is going to allow me to face another one of the governors, or bosses in the game, to get another medallion. But I'm also going to do that little bit of grinding I mentioned in order to build up a little bit of money. But what I'm really going to need it for is to get the force points, the force ability points, in order to unlock that teleport ability at 200.